So, hi Devatra, how are you?
Thank you for having me. Good morning. I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm good as well. So, on behalf of the entire EG family, I welcome you here. Now, let's start your interview. Uh, Devatra, please tell us something about yourself and also give a detailed overview of your profile, percentile, calls, and everything.
Yeah. So, starting from the beginning, I'm born and brought up in Kolkata, and in my class 10th, I was in the ICSE board, and I scored a 96% in my class 10. In class 12th in ISC, I scored around 88%, and after that, I pursued an engineering degree in electronics, and there I got a CGPA of 8.67. So, in CAT terms, we can say this profile is a 987 profile, 7 because of the percentage conversion from CGPA to the percentage which we take. So I graduated in 2021, and since then till May 2024, I've been working at Tata Consultancy Services as a developer and in their digital cadre. And I'll be next pursuing MBA after this year. And as for my CAT, so CAT 2023 was my first CAT attempt, and I scored 99.85 percentile there. And after that, I got calls from all the IIMs except Ahmedabad, and I have converted Calcutta so far, and the other results are pending.
Devatra, you told me that you work in TCS, right? So,
Yeah.
now you want to go for an MBA. So, what was the moment that when you decided that कि अब हो गया ये job, अब मेरे को MBA में जाना है? When did you decide?
So unlike a lot of people, I did not like feel I'm frustrated with my job or anything. It was more of a this is a natural next step and next progression in my career because of things that I experienced in my workplace as well. Not going into too much of details because of some maybe restrictions and liabilities. I would just say that there were moments when I realized just having a technical knowledge is not enough here, and I'm having to not even do my work, but as well as to manage external teams as well as manage a lot of other departments and faculties. So that was when I decided that probably having a thorough MBA knowledge and theoretical knowledge here will be a massive help for me. And also, since I had an undergraduate degree in electronics, but then I've been working in development, I realized that somewhere down the line, having that theoretical knowledge is very important, which I missed during my undergrads, and I have had to catch up with the computer science graduates. So those all motivated my decision to pursue an MBA here.
So, this was your first attempt, right? So, how did you end up with Elitesgrid? How did you come to know about this, and when did you join it? Which batch? Yeah.
Yeah. So Elitesgrid, I was introduced to by my sister. So she was a ex-student of Elitesgrid during her preparation time, and also there were college seniors who have also used Elitesgrid for their preparation. So that is how I got to know about them. And my sister was really motivating, and they were like, "You should join Elitesgrid if you are preparing seriously for CAT." So I ended up joining at the very first batch, which started in the last week of January. So batch one or the first batch, whichever it is called. I joined that batch, and the introduction session started towards January, and then classes started regularly from February onwards. And since then, I've been mostly trying to keep up with my preparations, but I had to start seriously only around May. I did not get a lot of time scheduling before that, and also I had to develop my studying habits again, which I left behind in 2020 and 21.
Alright. So, did you like Elitesgrid? How was your experience? Your sister recommended it, and so you must have high hopes. So, how was your experience, overall experience?
Yeah, so my primary motivation for joining Elite Script was that just before I started preparation, I tried to look into what are the materials that are available open source and freely on the internet. Excuse me. So I saw that there is a overabundance of material. Like there are so many things, and I'll get overwhelmed trying to follow all of them. Also, I had a full-time job which I had to do, and I could not spend the amount of hours that I need, as well as having a normal classroom experience and going into classrooms to study was also out of the equation for me. So all of this pushed me towards PG, which is more geared towards work experience professionals who are preparing simultaneously with their work. So their late night classes, recorded lectures, as well as the assignments that they have, which is very streamlined and focused on quality rather than quantity. So like Elitesgrid will have probably 10 sums in a chapter, but those 10 sums will cover all of the varieties that can come, and that will give you enough practice. And these were the motivations that led me to join EG. And ever since I joined it, I've realized this is the best decision that I've made, especially looking at Hani sir's teaching and Hani sir's motivation and how much efforts he has given towards his students, teaching till the day before CAT examination, teaching till 8 p.m. is not a small feat at all. And that kept us motivated. And the teaching quality was also good in all the three sections here in LRD, IB, ARC, as well as quant. So that was one of the best decisions that I have taken.
So you were working, right? So how did you manage, your job, your studies, preparation, mocks, and all? What was your daily schedule during your CAT journey?
Yeah, so I was lucky in some ways that my job was hybrid job, so I did not have to go to office every day. So I had two separate schedules for when I'm going to office and when I'm working from home. Because going to office would mean from my place, my office was about 2 hours away of travel, even just one way. So I would probably lose around 3 hours, 3.5 hours to 4 hours on traveling if I'm going to office. So I had to plan my schedule accordingly. And in the beginning, it was quite difficult. So like towards February, March, I would find it overwhelming. How am I supposed to manage the office going, coming back from office, and as well as preparing, as well as getting myself ready to study again? So, as I mentioned, that I've kept my studying in 2021, so that was the last time I'd given any exam. But that was also my final years of engineering, which is much lighter in comparison to anything else that comes in before or after. So, my primary studying years were probably left behind in 2020. So it has been 3 years, and I have to develop that habit again, going away from work and sitting down, studying, and trying to get up materials from there. So that was a very challenging experience, and honestly, I had to struggle a lot trying to find the right balance. But after I kept on doing it over and over and trying new things, I finally realized what was it that was working for me, which were the hours that I'm most active at, most productive at, and how much sleep do I require, and how to schedule the other things in my life that are working around me. And I got that balance right around April and May, and since then my preparation just skyrocketed. It did not fall behind after that at all.
Yeah, it's great that you figured out your thing. So, yeah. So let's talk about CAT now. So it has three sections, right? So what was your strongest section? Which section you require more, to work on it? So tell us about this.
Yeah, so before my preparation started, I would say my strongest section was quants because the maths which we see in our CAT paper we are familiar with the questions that come in there. We have studied them already, either in our engineering course or in 11, 12. Most of them were in class 10th as well. So quant was probably my strongest section. And my weakest would be DILR because nothing like that ever came up in our lives before CAT. So that would be the weakest and the most unfamiliar one. But as I went through my preparation, I realized that DILR is probably the one which is most formulaic and which we can tackle with the most amount of certainty. And VARC becomes the one which is quite unpredictable and sitting there. We have to be lucky. We have to understand the passage. We have to put in the most efforts there. While quants, if you have not had a maths background, then quants is probably the one which will be the hardest for you because numbers, algebra, geometry, and all of these concepts together in a 1 month and also doing it in 40 minutes of time, 24 questions or 22 questions, something around that. So that's also not an easy thing to do. But for me, just before my CAT exams were coming up, probably the most challenging section was BARC, and I was lagging behind there. Part of the reason was that since I only found my preparation mojo in May, so I had actually missed quite a few classes of Shahadar sir in BARC, and I felt that recorded lectures were not enough to propel that knowledge. So I was unable to understand what was happening in the class. And when I would sit in Shahadar sir's explanatory classes when he would be explaining papers, I would feel that I'm probably left behind somewhere. So that took a lot of time for me to keep up and catch up with the rest of the ones. So finally, VARC became the most challenging one. But fortunately, in the CAT paper, probably the VARC section was slightly easier than the other ones. And I ended up scoring the most marks in that section only.
So, like as you said, the VARC, was difficult for you. So I have seen a lot of people, even if you join any Facebook groups or CAT preparation group, there were always students जो बोलते हैं कि like VARC में strategy नहीं बन रहा, reading habit नहीं बन रही, ऐसा होता है काफी लोगों के साथ, right? So what was your strategy, especially for VARC? Like you पहले RC करके BA में जाना या BA करके RC में जाना, and how did you come up with the strategy?
So I would start with how I came up with the strategy first. So स्ट्रैटेजी आपके लिए क्या काम कर रहा है उसके लिए द बेस्ट थिंग टू डू इज गिव मॉक्स. सो आप पहले जितने भी मॉक्स दे रहे हो सब में जितने भी डिफरेंट आपको स्ट्रैटेजीज लग रहे हैं कि ये शायद काम कर सकता है, ट्राई कर लीजिए एक बार. उसको आप ट्राई किए, फिर देखें कि आपके लिए कौन सा सही काम कर रहा है. एक अगर एक में अगर अच्छा स्कोर आ गया, एक में लगा कि आपने पेपर को अच्छे से हैंडल कर पाए, आप बैलेंस कर पाए, तो वो स्ट्रैटेजी को फिर से अपनाइए. अगर वो फिर से काम कर गया तो चलते चलते आप उसी स्ट्रैटेजी को लेके आगे बढ़ते जाएंगे. तो वो पर्सनल होता है आई थिंक कि आपके लिए कौन सा काम कर रहा है. और
Definitely.
आपका अगर रीडिंग हैबिट्स अच्छे हैं तो फिर आपके लिए शायद आरसी फास्टर होगा, समरीज फास्टर होगा. अगर आपका क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग अच्छा है तो शायद ये अच्छा होगा पहले. तो वो पर्सनली डिपेंड करता है. तो फाइनली मुझे बहुत टाइम लगा था कि अपना फाइनल स्ट्रैटेजी बनाने में. बट मेरा फाइनल स्ट्रैटेजी यही रहा था कि पहले 5 मिनट जो बीआरसी का 40 मिनट होता है उसका पहला 5 मिनट मैं बस सारे आरसीज को स्पिन करूंगा और उसके सारे क्वेश्चंस को देखूंगा कि आरसीज पढ़ लिए. और आरसीज का कैटेगरीज हो जाता है कि बाद में शायद शारदा सर 2024 के बैच को भी सिखा देंगे कि कौन से कैटेगरीज होते हैं. बट बहुत सारे 5-6 कैटेगरीज के अंदर सारे आरसी आ जाते हैं. तो आपको पहले से एक आइडिया होना चाहिए कि अगर इस कैटेगरी का होगा तो ये मेरा शायद थोड़ा सा स्ट्रॉगर है, तो ये मेरे लिए कंफर्टेबल होगा. दैट्स ऑल्सो पर्सनल थिंग. तो
Yeah.
हमारा काम रहता है मैं उस 5 मिनट में जस्ट बैठ के आरसी कौन से कैटेगरी से आया है और उसका क्वेश्चन कैसे कैटेगरी का है, कि डायरेक्ट है पैसेज से या क्रिटिकल थिंकिंग लगाना पड़ रहा है या लंबा क्वेश्चन है कि एक्सेप्ट वाले जो क्वेश्चन होते हैं कि ऑप्शन दिए 3 सही होंगे 1 गलत होंगे, तो वो लंबा क्वेश्चन होता है. तो क्वेश्चन के अनुसार और पैसेज के अनुसार आप शेड्यूल कीजिए कि कौन से आरसी को मैं पहले फर्स्ट 2 आरसी में पढ़ूंगा. Like first will be the one which is the fastest, which I can do quickest in my opinion. And then the second one will be which is easy, but it will take a bit of time. तो वो 2 आरसी करने के बाद I would switch to VA. I would try to attempt as many as I can. Summaries were my weaker section, so unfortunately I could not get my accuracy high even towards the end of CAT preparation. So summaries were my weakest section, so I decided that I will spend less time there so that I don't waste time for the other ones. So apart from that, I would try to like if a summary I can see directly the answer, then it's fine. Else I'll just skip it quickly. The rest of the BA I would tackle, and then with the remaining time, I would tackle the third RC which I've chosen. Normally, I would ideally have about 10 minutes left after my 2 RCs and BA, and that 10 minutes I would utilize entirely for the third RC. So just for solving an RC properly, after my skimming period and after I chose my first RC, I would probably take about 2 to 2.5 minutes to read the passage. Depending on the size, it can probably go to 3 or 3.5 as well. And then spend the rest of about 7-8 minutes total. So the rest 5 to 6 minutes in solving the questions. That was my proper strategy. However, during my CAT examination, I was much quicker than I were in mocks. So I had time left for my fourth RC as well, and I could probably read a bit and answer 2 or 3 questions as well from there.
Yeah, that's all. So I think मतलब mocks हो या sectional हो, strategy develop करना is important. ठीक है,
100%.
मतलब सबके different होंगे strategy, but strategy develop करना is important, right? So
और आपके लिए कौन सा काम कर रहा है वो देखना भी बहुत जरूरी है. उसके लिए आप सेक्शनल्स एंड मॉक देते रहेंगे कि कौन सा
yeah,
आपके
yeah.
लिए काम कर रहा है वो देख पाएंगे.
So आपने जितने strategies develop करे थे, did they work out on the D-Day?
For VARC, yes, it performed better than I expected. In DILR as well, in DILR, my strategy was read all the 4 passages, then choose 2 and solve those 2 sets completely with 100% accuracy. So that worked out. And after that, I also had time to solve the third RC. I could solve 1 or 2 questions out of the sorry, not RC, third set as well. So that also worked out there. But quants was the one where my strategy fell through, because in quants my strategy was always I would ideally take 3 rounds of the entire paper, but at least 2 rounds. And in the first round, I would try to solve at least 11 to 12 questions as quickly as possible in 13, 14 minutes. And then the second round will be the one which I'm calculating a bit more. And then the third round will be whatever is the time that I've left. But in the actual CAT paper, I saw that the first 5 questions that came in, I couldn't solve any of them. So my strategy basically went out of the window. I cannot do round 3 here, that is for sure. But and also one of the things which I strictly followed was that in the CAT examination day, I did not follow any news. So I'm from slot 3, the evening slot. So people from slot 1 would come out and they will say what has happened in the paper. But I try to strictly stay away from it, because if someone says that the paper is difficult, and that will have a separate kind of mental attitude inside me. And I did not want any of that biases. So I did not know that the quant section was more difficult than previous years. So I was following the first 5 questions. I could not solve any of them. I jumped to the sixth one, tried to solve it, and I only took two rounds of the paper. I took a lot of time on questions, and finally could solve only about 12 questions there in the quant section. But there was one thing which always kept me motivated in that exam center was that in my preparation time, I always try to prepare in such a way that if I face something difficult in a paper, I would know that 99% of the people in the hall are also finding it difficult. It's not just me. And that was what kept me going in the console. Like, if I can't solve the first five questions, I'm almost sure that most of the people in that room are also not being able to solve it. So it's not an issue. And it's also not about marks, it's about percentiles. So it's like you're competing with other people. So what other people are doing also matters. So that kept me motivated in that quant paper.
So I have also heard that this year the quant paper was like way more tougher than all this last year's, right? So solving 12 questions was still pretty good, I think. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
could not keep the accuracy there, but yeah, I still try to solve as many as possible.
yeah, at least you tried. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have already converted IIM Calcutta, right? So what was like, what was your reaction when you converted? What was your friend's reaction, your family? How did you celebrate it?
So a little bit of background about me. So in Kolkata, I live at a place which is basically the next bus stop to Joka, where I am Calcutta is. So ever since I was a child, even before I probably knew what MBA is or anything, I always knew that I am Calcutta is a big institute. I always had that idea, and this is a big institute that is very close to my home. So when I started my MBA journey, of course, Calcutta was one of my ultimate dream colleges, that it will be next to my home and it will be a college that everyone around me knows, and it will be a massive achievement. So I before my Calcutta results, I got a few results where my interview performances or my CAT performances did not were not up to the mark. So I was a bit dejected going into the Calcutta results. So I actually checked out of social media for a few days. So I was unaware that it will come out on 1st of May. So when it came out and in the EC groups, I got a ping that there's Calcutta results are out. I checked it with a little bit of hope that maybe it will work out because the interview was better than the other ones, and a little bit of okay, if it doesn't happen, then it doesn't happen. When I opened the result, I saw the congratulations. I was like, is this result real? Is the link real? That was my first point. Then after that, when I realized that the yes, the results are fine. I ran out from my room. I came to my parents' room. I mentioned them that I converted Calcutta, and they were really happy. They were probably more happy than I was because I was just trying to take in the moment there. And they mentioned it to the relatives, and they just let me know. And all of them were super happy. I got a lot of calls from people who had a lot of faith in me. They had a lot of belief in me. Even from my friends, when I was dejected at any point, they would not lose their faith in me. So when I called them and they were like, "See, I told you that you will convert it." I said, yes. So that was a very happy day, and it will be one of the most prominent memories in my life going forward as well.
Definitely. Cracking, CAT and getting into IIM Calcutta in the first attempt, it's such a big deal for, most of the people. So congratulations for that. Yeah. Now let's move on to OMETS. So what other exams did you give and what were their scores?
Yeah, so before my CAT examination, since before this year's CAT, my last competitive attempt was the engineering competitive exams, which I gave in 2017, 2018, I think. No, actually 2017. Yeah. So in 2017. So I had a 6 year gap before any competitive exams. So before my CAT examination, I wanted to give one. So I sat for NMAT there, as also mentioned by Hani sir. He mentioned that last week of October is the time when you should give the NMAT examination. So I sat for that. I wanted to get a feel of how the security checks work, how giving an exam in a center works. So I scored 279 in NMAT, but unfortunately I could not go for the NMIMS interview, which is scheduled in Mumbai. And after that, I sat for the SNAP examination and I converted SIBM Pune and CMHRD as well. But I could not also attend the SAT examination because it was a bit far from my home and I actually fell sick before the examination, so I could not go there. Else, SAT was also one which I had registered for, but unfortunately I could not attempt it.
That's fine. So where did you prepare for these exams? Like you prepared it from Elitesgrid only?
Yes, I did not see any other place of preparation or any other material. So for OMETs, EG and Honeysir especially has specific classes for OMETs as well as mocks, which they give for NMAT and SNAP. So for NMAT and SNAP, I did not buy the mock specifically. I did not have those, but I attended all of Honeysir's classes. and I tried to solve it from the books that I had. So I had some books for NMAT and SAP. So I tried to follow the books from there, practiced a bit from there, and I followed all of Hanisar's classes where he was teaching the techniques of how this exam will be different from CAT examination, how much more speed is required here, and what will be the exam pattern. So NMAT is an adaptive test like GMAT, and what is an adaptive test? How should you tackle that, and what are the ways to ensure that you get a high score there? Those all tips and tricks I took from Hanisar, and most of the preparation aligns with CAT. It overlaps, but a few things like the puzzles and the logical reasoning part is different. So those logical reasoning parts I have to take from other materials, which are something like from government examinations or from other sources there.
Like, CAT and OMETS are very, very different from each other, right? In OMETS, you have to study, GK, decision making. So, yeah, so you must have studied them from Elitesgrid only. So, what was your experience? का GK,
So
DM का जो classes होता है, वो कैसा था?
yes, the decision making part, I was completely unaware what decision making is. So that in Elitesgrid, that gave me an idea of what decision making is, how we should tackle, and what are the techniques of doing it. OMETs, that छोड़ के बाकी OMETs के decision making are slightly on the easier side, so you can understand. But especially जो ZAT के classes थे, ZAT के classes में बैठ के decision making कैसे करेंगे, वहाँ के questions को कैसे tackle करेंगे, that was a very enriching experience की मुझे decision making आता ही नहीं है, फिर मैं देख रहा हूँ कि ये टेक्निक्स लगाओ तो सॉल्व हो जा रहे हैं, ये टेक्निक्स लगा रहे तो आंसर सही आ रहे हैं। तो फाइनली मैं दैट देने तो नहीं जा पाया, बट स्टिल दैट डिसीजन मेकिंग का जो टेक्निक्स था वो काम आए हैं, एंड ऑल्सो इट विल हेल्प इन द फ्यूचर एज वेल, बिकॉज डिसीजन मेकिंग तो रहता ही है, और वो टाइप की चीजें तो आपको समझ में आ जाती है कि दिस आर द काइंड ऑफ डिसीजन दैट नीड टू बी टेकन एंड दीज आर द काइंड्स व्हिच मेक्स द मोस्ट सेंस इन दीज सिचुएशंस, तो उसके लिए भी काम आ जाते हैं।
So my last question for you is that what one advice or a message would you like to give to all the future aspirants who will be watching us, in future?
The one major advice is cut out the noise. So this is something which worked out for me really well. That outside of this EG sphere, there will be a lot of people saying a lot of things about CAT. Someone will be saying,
Mhm.
ये सेक्शन हार्ड है, आप इंजीनियर नहीं है तो कॉन्ट्स कर ही नहीं पाएंगे, आप इंजीनियर है तो ये कर ही नहीं पाएंगे, आपको इंग्लिश आता
Mhm.
नहीं है। तो आई वुड से एंड देयर विल बी अ लॉट ऑफ मटेरियल्स एज वेल, वो बोलेंगे अरुण शर्मा करो, ये बोलेंगे आरती शर्मा करो। तो इफ यू डू नॉट हैव द टाइम, और आप देखेंगे कि हजार लोग हजार चीजें करने को बोल रहे हैं, आप एक सर्टेन पॉइंट पे जाके ओवरवेल्म हो जाएंगे कि मेरे लिए शायद बना ही नहीं है, मैं ये कर नहीं पाऊंगा, बाकी लोग रोबोट्स की तरह काम किए जा रहे हैं। तो दैट विल बी माई वन मेजर एडवाइस की कट आउट द नॉइज. If you are
Absolutely.
studying with EG, then stick to what EG is telling you, stick to what Hanisar is telling you, because that will be more than enough. I can assure you that whatever he's giving you for practice, whatever topic tests, whatever sectional mocks, that will be way more than enough. And also, I could not complete I could not complete all of what EG had provided as well. So I did not have time to solve all the topic tests, but I prioritized things which I knew that will be necessary. So I prioritized the assignments. So in quants, whatever assignments is like what Hanisar is teaching in the class as well. But still, even after class, I would solve them myself because I want to make the muscle memory of that. कि ये टाइप के क्वेश्चंस ऐसे सॉल्व करो, तुरंत करो, और वो मैं 2-3 बार सॉल्व करता। तो असाइनमेंट्स उसमें फर्स्ट प्रायोरिटी, तो उसके लिए मेरा अगर कुछ सेक्शनल्स छूट गए, मेरा कुछ मॉक्स छूट गए, तो दैट इज फाइन, बिकॉज मॉक्स और सेक्शनल्स आपकी स्ट्रैटेजी
Mhm.
बनाने के लिए, आपके बैठने का प्रैक्टिस बनाने के लिए कि आप 2 घंटे बैठे हो स्क्रीन के सामने, उन सब के लिए इंपॉर्टेंट है। बट प्रिपरेशन इज प्रिपरेशन, और वो आपको मटेरियल्स जो मिल रहे हैं प्रिपरेशन के उसी से मिलने वाला है। तो आई वुड से जस्ट कट आउट द नॉइज, आपको ज्यादा कुछ करने का जरूरत नहीं है, आपके पास जितना टाइम है आप उतना दीजिए, आप जितना एफर्ट डाल सकते हो उतना एफर्ट डालिए, एंड इट विल वर्क आउट वेल। जस्ट आपके पास जो टाइम है उसको आप एकदम ठीक से यूज करें। अगर आप दिन में 2 घंटे पढ़ पा रहे हैं, ऑनेस्टली मैं 3-4 घंटे से ज्यादा पढ़ ही नहीं पाया हूँ। अक्टूबर में भी आई कुड मैक्सिमम स्पेंड 3 to 4 hours बिकॉज आई हैव ऑलवेज इन द मॉर्निंग आई डिड नीड अ बिट ऑफ स्लीप, आई हैव नेवर बीन अ मॉर्निंग पर्सन। मुझे मतलब earliest I can get up is 8, 8:30, 9. 9 is the normal. 10 is mostly the times when I wake up during my work from home days because 11 से लॉग इन करना पड़ता था। तो आई वॉज नेवर अ मॉर्निंग पर्सन, तो मेरा स्लीप हो जाता है, तो मुझे वो रात को ही पढ़ना पड़ता है। मैं 3-4 आवर्स से ज्यादा दे नहीं पाया, बट दैट इज द थिंग कि वो 3-4 घंटे मैं सॉलिड पढ़ूंगा कि मैं और कुछ नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं एकदम से जितना काम मिल रहा है उतना पढ़ रहा हूँ, उसमें मैं जितना कर पाया उसी में मैं खुश हूँ कि मैंने अपना 100% दिया है। वो जो कॉन्फिडेंस रहता है कि मैंने जितना दे सकता था वो दिया है, वो भी एक अलग कॉन्फिडेंस ला देता है। तो इट्स नॉट अबाउट द वॉल्यूम ऑफ द मटेरियल्स, इट्स लाइक आप कितने कॉन्फिडेंट हो, आपने कितना प्रिपेयर किया है, और आप खुद के साथ सही रहो कि आपने एफर्ट दिया है, तो हो जाता है कोई। ये मेजर एडवाइस है जो मैं देना चाहूंगा.
Yeah, that's a really great advice, I would say. And yeah, thank you, Debrata, for joining today. And thank you
Thank
for
you.
giving, such detailed insights of your profile, your calls, and everything. That would really be helpful for all the future aspirants. And all the best for your future.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and all the best to you too.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.